Greetings, my fellow gamers! Thank you all so much for tuning in. My name is Get Rexx't, and welcome to the Let's Quest episode 50 special! Now, we're to start the special off with dinging! Almost. I was so certain I was gonna ding by that. Can ding by this? Anyway, we're here, still in Boron Tundra. We're gonna do the, quests for the druids. I just realized there's Lunar Festival, so that's a bit more experience to be granted. But, most importantly, it is episode 50. We're halfway to 100 in terms of episode counts, and we are 29 levels, I'll say, away from reaching the cap level. Now, I'm gonna do these specials for at least every 10th episode, and the main reason as to why I do it is because, as the episode goes by, we're eventually going to reach this one point where 30-minute episodes is going to, like, grant me maybe half a level or so on, when we reach at least the Pandaria Zones Plus. So to have these specials every 10th level, which, allows me to, like, catch a bit up and, just have these recordings that lasts as many minutes as the episode count is, gives me a bit of a window to catch up on otherwise lost experience, so that my goal is to see if I can't reach level 100 by episode 100 of this series, but we'll see. But just like episode 40, which I spoke about my current experience in terms of the Legion Alpha that I've been playing on some recently, I wanted to, like, talk about something. That's what I wanted to fill the episode with, because I still think it's a bit dull when you just sit there and you focus on just staring into the screen. I like talking about things when I do these series, and these special episodes allows me to bring up bigger topics and talk about them. So, in this episode of Let's Quest, I'll be talking about why I hated the Cataclysm expansion. As some of you may have seen within my intros for my Topic of the Month videos, and so on. I've included different sceneries from around Azeroth and from the different expansions of World of Warcraft, but I have specifically excluded point of views from the Cataclysm. You've also seen in some of my other Let's Quest episodes that I've just simply flat out ignored the fact that Cataclysm even existed as an expansion. And this in itself isn't all that special. Not a lot of people actually liked the Cataclysm expansion. What has caught some people's attention, mostly between me and my friends, is that I like Mr. Pandaria overall better than I like the Cataclysm, and this is where some people's like, I'm not sure. And it's easy for someone to just go out and say that, oh, Cataclysm was the worst, even having played it, because that's what the entire rest of the community says. Same as with certain people saying that, oh, Vanilla's the best, and they haven't even played Vanilla. Yeah, I don't want to go down into history as one of those guys who just said that, oh, I don't like Cataclysm, without actually giving my reasons for it. So in this episode, I'll be talking about it, giving a bit of my personal point of view in terms of the PvE and PvP in the Cataclysm, and weigh it up to the other expansion that a lot of people disliked, Mr. Pandaria, in order for people to get a better take on why I dislike the expansion, and some of my major issues with it. And would you look at that with Ding Level 71? So I'll start off by saying that one of my first major gripes with Cataclysm was its failed take on making the classes seem better more individually. Something Blizzard has gradually been working more and more on since the Cataclysm is to make the different classes and their specs feel unique apart from the class's other specs. Legion on its alpha state so far has done a really, really good job distinguishing this. It really has. I am absolutely impressed by how it currently feels like playing on the Legion Alpha, and they really didn't take such a huge take on trying to separate the classes individually or specs individually like that in previous installments of World of Warcraft, but they started working on it in the Cataclysm, and it was good that Blizzard started working on it, but the way they approached it and executed it in the Cataclysm really wasn't good. Yeah, of course, they gave the holy power to the Paladins, and Demonology Warlocks got like Demonic Fury in terms of metamorphosis, etc., etc., but it still didn't feel good enough. It didn't have the feeling which it's currently about to get. It might just be because of the fact that I have played on the Legion Alpha, and I see what Blizzard is capable of now, that it makes me look a bit more down on it, but I just didn't feel like they did the entire, let's try to separate and make the different specs feel individually any good within the Cataclysm. I just didn't get that feel. They didn't do a good job. It was a okay job, better than that of Wrath of the Lich King and TBC in Classic especially, of course, but it still didn't have the same cinch to it as I thought it would have, and that was most likely one of my major gripes, because I'd heard some people talk about, oh, we played on the test servers, and the classes are supposed to feel more unique now. And although, again, they did it to a certain degree, they didn't live up to it as much as I expected them to, which was one of my first letdowns. Second of all was the PvP, and I shit you not, having played PvP, which was the majority of things I did within the Cataclysm and the Mists of Pandaria expansion, I just disliked PvP in Cataclysm. It was better within Mists of Pandaria. And to this, some people says yes, and other people say no. But once again, this is my personal opinion. It's nothing more, it's just my personal opinion upon it. I feel that the PvP within Cataclysm was lacking, and the classes was more unbalanced in Cataclysm compared to what they were within the Mists of Pandaria expansion. Also, when we reached the final patch of the, Cataclysm expansion, that was when Blizzard first realized that, oh, maybe we need to make sure that PvE items isn't that overpowered within PvP, thinking of some of the trinkets that, I think especially was rogues that got from the Dragon Soul raid, which just absolutely wrecked faces in PvP. It was just a depressing feat, and also then adding that up with the rogues only getting legendary daggers, which also was OP as shit in PvP, but I'm gonna get back to the legendaries as a, own thing in not too long. But yeah, I just felt that the PvP in Cataclysm wasn't all that exciting, and I'd say that the class balance was worse. I felt that at least. It might just have been that it was more to the classes I currently mained. I mained Hunter in both Cataclysm and Mists of Pandaria, I did. But even so, I just felt in general when I did random battlegrounds or did like any kind of PvP content at all, when I faced most of the classes, I felt that the balance was more out of the window in the Cataclysm compared to what it was within Mists of Pandaria. Once again, Cataclysm is a pre-sister expansion, and Blizzard is of course getting better at things as the years go by, but there's still a lot of people who says that the PvP in Mist was worse than Cataclysm, and I beg to differ. I personally felt that it was better to do PvP. I had a better feel to it in Mists compared to that of the Cataclysm expansion. Sure, I like the revamp they did with the entire honor system, the way they changed things up as the expansions went and gone by, but even so, I just felt that the overall PvP within Cataclysm wasn't good. It was functional, more functional than that of Wrath of the Lich King. Don't take me wrong, I mean, like, the PvP in Wrath of the Lich King was out the window in 3.3.5. Retribution Paladin is one-shotting with no skill all over the place. But yeah, I didn't like the PvP within Cataclysm, simple as that. And then there's the PvE content, one of the aspects which I didn't really delve all that much into within Mists of Pandaria, but of course got my fair share of the PvE within Cataclysm. I wouldn't be one to talk about it unless I had actually played some of it. So, in terms of the PvE, I also felt that Cataclysm was really lacking. Cataclysm had really good dungeons, I'll admit that. The dungeon set wasn't bad. The dungeons in Cataclysm was absolutely okay, nothing wrong about them. But in there lies the problem that you really can't just do dungeons in endgame PvE. Of course, certain people do it, and as I mentioned earlier in one of my previous episodes, I think it was 42, where I spoke about these challenge mode tokens getting added. Challenge mode is dungeon content, which some people feel that their expansion doing because they're completing these challenge modes and absolutely all their characters. Challenge mode didn't exist within the Cataclysm, and despite having good dungeons, it still can't fill out everything you're supposed to do during the endgame content. I was a bit pissed when they revamped Sulgurb and Zulaman into dungeons. I think you should have the options of going back to them as a raid to obtain some of the items there and so on. I didn't feel that they... Oh, no. Nah, don't do that. I don't want to get the druids pissed at me. But yeah, I just felt that it was a bit, yeah, it was good dungeons. It was okay. I didn't like the revamping, of course, of Sulgurb or Solomon. I was not a fan of that. But even so, they made into decent dungeons, and especially the dungeons which appeared within patch... you done? That appeared within the last patch of the Cataclysm expansion, the... what were the name again? Was the End Time especially. Holy crap, I love it, End Time. And then there was the Will of Eternity, and the last one, Hour of Twilight. Absolutely amazing dungeons. I like them. But again, you can't spam dungeons until the end of all of the things. It just doesn't work like that. And that covers the dungeon part of the PvE. Dungeons of good quality, but again, you can't just spam dungeons for endgame content. Which brings us to the raids. Also, something which baffles people is that I couldn't stand some of the raids from the Cataclysm expansion. not at least compared to that of the Mists of Pandaria ones. If you take the first tier, for instance, first tier of Mists of Pandaria, we had Mogushan Vaults, we had Heart of Fear, and we had Terrors of Endless Springs. Within the expansion of the Cataclysm, we had the Throne of Four Winds, we had the Bastion of Twilight, and then there was the Blackwing Descent. Wow, Blackwing. Yeah, it was the Blackwing raid. Fucking hell, I don't even remember its name at this point. It's a bit hard for me to think when I'm talking. IQ, it's there, but it's kind of faded away. But yeah, I personally think that the Mystic Pandaria the first patch raids was way better than the ones from Cataclysm. Master of Twilight and the Blackwing. This is Blackwing Descent, isn't it? Dungeons and Raids. I'm pretty sure it was Pretty sure it was. Bastion of Twilight. Come on, give me names. Blackwing Descent, yeah, it was Blackwing Descent. Yeah. I personally felt that the Blackwing Descent and Bastion of Twilight wasn't specifically good raids. They didn't have that good raid feel to them as I would have expected them to do. The Throne of the Four Winds, okay, sure, that was a functional raid. Was decent enough, I'd say. But even so, I felt that it should have been more to it. It might just have been because that we had just left the Wrath of the Lich King expansion. We had just done ICC, which was an amazing raid, and then we entered the Cataclysm and were greeted by these absolutely dreadful raids. I wouldn't say they're by far not the worst raids in the game, of course not, but still, to enter an expansion on those notes really wasn't good. And once again, it might just have been that we had just left the previous expansion having done the ICC as a raid, and ICC was not absolutely amazing raid. I mean, I know the raid was out for quite a while, just like all end raids has been out for quite a while before we move on to the next expansion, but even so, yeah, you can attack now. Ah, dumbass wolf. Dumbass master, depends. But yeah, I didn't feel like that was a good note to start on, at least not, I'd say, compared to the start rates for Wrath of the Lich King, for instance. I felt that they had a lot more to them. If Eternity and the Finish Anthem were really that hard. No, but it was something about the feel of it. That was the thing to me. Because although raid bosses change over the years, and the boss mechanics, of course, keeps getting better, most of it keeps getting better and better, it wasn't the same good feel that I got from the Wrath of the Lich King raids for the first time. It just really wasn't. And it also, again, it's important to mention, might have been that we ended out on the note of leaving ICC and going into these raids that didn't bring joy to a lot of people, but yeah, it just wasn't a good start set of raids, at least in my opinion. Moving on to the next set of raid tier, we had the Firelands is by far the most decent raid they had within the Cataclysm expansions, no questions asked. Firelands was by far the greatest raid this expansion had to offer. Well, not this, but the Cataclysm expansion had to offer. I sadly weren't able to go want to take Rags on Heroic. I didn't get to do that. As a Rags Heroic, I only heard talk about how amazing the fight was. I saw these videos, heard people I knew talk about it. I so wanted to do that fight, but I didn't get my hands around to do it. But Firelands was it was a really, really interesting raid. It was good. And comparing that to the secondary tier raid in the Mists of Pandaria, the Throne of Thunder, I'd say that the Firelands one wins that round. Although Throne of Thunder was an okay raid, it wasn't really all that exciting. It really wasn't. Like, my favorite fight from the Throne of Thunder is by far G-Kun. I thought G-Kun's fight was amazing. To some which people say that, G-Kun? Are you serious, dude? Yeah, and I thought that was a cool fight. I really thought it was a cool fight. But, yeah. I felt that the Firelands raid was the best nota of raiding that the Cataclysm had to offer, and of course that means it beat the Throne of Thunder comparing it to Mists of Pandaria, because we're trying to compare the two worst expansions here, but yeah, it was a great raid. It wasn't the best raid ever in the game, by far not, but it was the best thing Cataclysm had to offer in terms of raids, and I had a good time. And that's pretty much going to be it for the second tier of raiding. I'm not going to speak anymore about that. Moving on to the last tier of raiding, holy shit. Dragon Soul is the most dreadful thing I've seen. I've seen dungeons more entertaining in that raid. So little challenge, and then there was like people speaking about the legendary Spines of Deathwing heroic fight, which just was a awfully tuned and scaled fight. And then Blizzard, of course, went on and nerfed it, and everyone got past it all of a sudden. Ugh. Dragon Soul in itself, with apart from a few of the bosses on heroic, was just flat out dreadful. It was awful. Ugh. Couldn't stand the raid. It was also at this point that I introduced the LFR, but the LFR and that stuff is something I'm going to come back to later on in this episode. But yeah, I didn't feel that was a good note to end on. And once again, comparing raids here, from these two expansions, Mists of Pandaria. Once again, I know that I'm not thinking about boss mechanic-wise, because boss mechanic-wise, again, the bosses improves. The expansions like Warlords of Draenor boss fights was way better than the one in Mists of Pandaria, for instance. But yeah, talking about just comparing it in that way, in the essential feeling of the raid, Dragon Soul wasn't good. It was really, really bad. It felt horribly paced, and the worst part, the biggest gripe I had, and I'm sure people's gonna be like, oh, it's most likely a boss mechanic you didn't like, or there's a boss fight in general. The worst gripe I had is the following. We played World of Warcraft for multiple years now. We have faced stuff versus great evils. We've killed Illidan. No, not killed. We have taken him prisoner. And we have killed Arthas. And we've defeated all these big bad guys. And that's cool. Deathwing himself, as a bad guy, was a generally threatening bad guy. He could have destroyed our world. But how did Deathwing die? So we went back in time. We acquired the Dragon Soul. Which, I'm not sure how time travel works in World of Warcraft, but I thought if you fucked up something in the past, it would change things for the future. Maybe it didn't. We went back in time and got the Dragon Soul. What did we do with it? We charged it, through all the great Jesus used the disc, empowered by the strength of all the different aspects, and boom, he shot Deathwing, and first he wounded him, and then we were fighting him, with tentacles and shit. It was a total tentacle party at that fight. And then Thrall goes on, he points his Dragon Soul at Deathwing, he shoots, and Deathwing goes boom. No epic quotes, no really awesome anything, he just went boom. That's what happened. He went boom. Done. That's it. Oh, it made me cringe. It made me cringe the utmost. I just felt that it was... I was dying on my inside when I saw that death. Frickin' bastard exploded in a giant poof of golden lights. That's how Deathwing died. That's how he died. And after we had done doing this awful raid boss, which was a bunch of tentacles and wings and shit, and we had brought him down, and then he'd be lying face down to the ground for 20% HP, with a bunch of tentacles swirling around us, dealing damage to us. What happens? He gets back up, he's a bit dizzy, and he explodes in a giant cloud of golden dust. That's the finish of Deathwing? That's how the Destroyer was killed? He got a little pinsy-winsy beam shot at him, then he was gone. That's how the last boss of that expansion died. That's how Deathwing the Destroyer was killed. Dreadful. I cringed for weeks on end. That was just disastrous. I couldn't believe my own eyes when I saw it. I was sitting there and I was like, Blizzard, what are you even fucking doing? They legitimately had him just explode in a golden cloud of poof and dust. Almost made me cry. Compared to some of the previous boss fights and how they have died. Illidan's takedown, Gil'jaden's takedown, Arthas' takedown more than anything. Yeah, sure, Deathwing isn't as known or as big as Arthas. Of course not. Deathwing could never hope to beat Arthas at that level of awesomeness. Of course not. But that's not the thing. The last boss of the expansion is supposed to go out on an epic note. How did he die? He went poof! That's what happened! It just makes me sad. I need to mount up on mouth now. Well, that's it for the raiding department. I just feel that the raids in the Cataclysm compared to Mists of Pandaria was dreadful. Firelands was, once again, an acceptable raid. It worked, but it didn't do anything more than work. It worked, and that's it. That's what it did. It worked. And it was the best in terms of raiding that the Cataclysm expansion had to buy itself on to give out. Then, of course, there was the aesthetic feel of the entire expansion itself. Now, we went back from... Just actually going to dismount from this. We went back from Dalaran to have Stormin as a capital city. Not fun. Not fun. I didn't miss Stormin. I I hope to get into the expansion, every expansion, seeing a new capital city emerge. That was what I was hoping for. I was really hyped for Worldless Draenor, when I said it was going to be different Alliance and Horde capitals, in terms of the Frostwolf something, the castle thing with all the ogres in previously, in Frostfire Ridge, and the Temple of Carwar for the Alliance, and they scrapped that. Ugh. But then we go into the Cataclysm, and we see that the capital cities, the main ones, like, the entire world is revamped. Okay, sure. But then we had Stormwind as a capital again. It was just this essential feel about Dawnrun, which I really, really, really liked. Mists of Pandaria also beat the Cataclysm expansion in terms of that, because it had its own capital cities for the Alliance and the Horde. And that was pretty decent. I like that. I like it when they bring new expansions into the new capital cities into the expansions. You know, the Cataclysm didn't need that because most of the things took place back on regular Eastern Kingdoms and Kalimdor again. Even so, it wouldn't harm them. Oh, it wouldn't make any sense. Get out of my face. It just... Oh, there we go. Arrow Lane. It was just dreadful to me. I was really, really depressed when we reached that point, and I figured out that, oh, that's the note I hear. No new actual capital city, we're just gonna be sitting here, and okay, sure, fine, I'll not complain. I just felt that it was terrible the way they did that day. They really shouldn't have gone on and freaking... Sure, it could just have stayed within Dalaran, but who did that? People wasn't in Dalaran anymore. They were back in Stormwind because that was the main capital for the Alliance, or Orgrimmar for the Horde's part. I just feel like we have these expansions already existing. We don't need these expansions to be the current main focus. We really, really, really don't. I would like to see something new. It wasn't necessary for the Cataclysm expansion. Just feels like they did so little to it. Rest of the game, the Cataclysm, in terms of world. That's all I have to say. I'll admit that the thing I enjoyed the most about the worldwide thing about Cataclysm in terms of especially world events, world content like daily quest zones and so on. What's the name? The Molten Front, I think it was, which you unlocked with the Firelands patch, where it did the daily quests. Decent, I liked it. It was really, really good. And also the introduction they saw there with the Hunter Pets Challenged. That was good. Good work. It was. But once again, I can't sit and say that an expansion was good, because it had a daily grinding place and some Hunter Pet challenges, which was good. Because you can't center an expansion around daily quests and Hunter Pet taming. You just can't. So despite to say that I really, really liked that, otherwise it just felt awful, and also the deconstruction of the previous zones. Yeah, sure, they needed somewhat of an update, but it was really, really at this point that they started what I'm calling, or what others as well is calling, the start of the decline of this game. And I'm also going to get back to that, but in terms of what they offer daily quest-wise, with each patch that was introduced, was little to none, and when they first introduced something which was decent, it was only half decent. I wasn't a big fan of the Molten Front compared to what I was of, say, the Daily Quest with the Mists of Pandaria. Heck, Daily Quest in freaking Wrath of the Lich King was tenfolds better or more enjoying than it was within the Cataclysm expansion, but even so, I pushed myself through it, and I'll say that amongst all the things that appeared in that expansion, Molten Front is most likely one of the most decent things to appear, but that, again, says a bit about the expansion. Now, as I just talked about, the start of the decline of the game, that's what I felt that Cataclysm was doing. Now, they went back and remodulated the zones. Okay, they made the old zones look better and nicer. They could need that. But even so, there was so many of the changes they did that I feel was so unnecessary. Like, for instance, they had like this fissured up zone within Westfall, like, out here someplace. This raging chasm thingy. Yeah, sure, there's a quest included there, but what other role did it have? There was so many other things they changed within the different zones that I felt was unnecessary. I think they could have polished the zones up, maybe updated some of the quests in terms of their progression and what you were doing, but I still felt that they did a lot of unnecessary changes, and something which they've been doing gradually since the Cataclysm, which was first really started with the Cataclysm, is we have the quest helper tool here implemented in the game. It was introduced within Wrath of the Lich King, don't take me wrong, but still, Wrath of the Lich King went on and had you read quest descriptions to a most part. At least the quests were still built up that way. You weren't just supposed to take a look at the quest helper and damn pet, and the quest helper would be like, yeah, just go there. You actually read a bit through the lines even back then, And then Cataclysm came along, and this was when the start of that decline started. Like, at current points within Warlords of Draenor, quest text isn't the way it used to be. Old quest text would be like, yeah, you need to collect my old heirloom, and it's shattered into 5 pieces. You will find the 1 piece at the house due west, and you'll find another... That was how quest text worked. I was like, no, like, quest text currently is like, yeah, and you need to go pick up my hammer. Where's the hammer? Look at your quest tracker. You have a quest helper thing, don't you? Killing off the RP elements of an MMORPG is not a good thing. It isn't. Made me cry. I just felt that it was unnecessary. And they slowly started doing that. That's something which has become worse as the expansion has passed by, but it was the beginning of it within the Cataclysm expansion. It just made me... made me... Oh, I felt so depressed when they started doing that shit. It was unnecessary. It really didn't have to do that. That was uncalled for, I think, that they started deconstructing the quests like that. And I also think that some of the songs got a lot of these stupid, unnecessary quests. Yeah, I know Blizzard's trying to be funny every now and then with some of the quests. For instance, Zenkiki, as we met within the Plaguelands, when we leveled up previously in our episode. I think it's like episode 15, 16, 17, someplace we met Zenkiki. And yeah, sure, Zenkiki and his quest chain is fun, but even so, I feel that in the long way it was a bit stupid as well. Like, the change of Anderhall and the quests there, those felt a bit more immersive and epic compared to that of, say, the rest of the entire Plaguelands as a zone. And when you then have quests with Zenkiki, which is basically just a dumb druid, I'm like, is this what we're trying to do to entertain people? Is this what we're trying to do? And back in the days, I'm saying back in the days to sound like one of those cranky old bastards, we traveled a lot, like we had to go from this zone to that zone. There was a lot more exploring the world. The RP elements was a lot more present than what they have become over the years. Yeah, sure, Miss Pandaria and Cataclysm has had some great quests in terms of quest dialogue. You feel that you're taking a bigger part of it, but that doesn't weigh up for the fact that they're killing off this world traveling, and especially this thing which I'm talking about with, like, quest descriptions. It's like, go find my hammer. Where is it? Look at your quest helper. Go put together my ancient artifact. It's made out of 5 pieces. You'll find them here, there, and there, and there. Go have a look-see. I just feel that they killed off, and it started with the Cataclysm, they killed off so many of the good old RP elements, and of course with the change of the zones, the update of the quests, it wasn't a good thing in the long run. It really, really wasn't. I think it would have been cool if Blizzard allowed you to, like, backtrack to old zones and, you know, just turn off the Cataclysm zones, but again, that would be a bit too much for the game, and I can see why they don't do that, but it would have been a good thing to have. I think that would have been cool. But yeah. And it brings us, when we're talking about the start of the decline of this game, it brings us to the most devastating thing. Now, I know people are tired of hearing other people whine about this. I'm completely aware of it, but I'm gonna give my reasons down to it now. Looking for raid. That's the word here. Now, in Breath of the Lich King, we got the Looking for Dungeon tool introduced. Okay, we got the Looking for Dungeon tool introduced, and that was something I saw happening. Dungeons isn't endgame content worthy. It's something you're going to spam a bit when you level up, and spam a bit when you reach the cap level, you know, to get some gear. And in the long run, of course, I expected Blizzard to introduce something which would allow you to group up and get faster to a dungeon. The Looking for Dungeon tool did this. That's okay, because dungeons is something everyone does pretty much. It's something almost everyone does. And then we move on. We get the Cataclysm. And I know that it wasn't really put into the game for, real, until Mr. Benaria, but it was still introduced. LFR was introduced. And boy, was it dreadful. LFR marked the very start of the most absolute decline of this game. Raiding is something which, in my opinion, is something that a group of people should get together and do. You should start a group, like have a guild, or, you know, start a pug in trade chat or something. Get people together, get going to the raid. Raids is something you're supposed to collect people for and go out there and do. LFR lets you skip that. You press a button. Cool. You wait, depending on your role, for anywhere between 1 second to 30 minutes, maybe 45 minutes. Okay. And what happens after that? I know you get into this raid, where mechanics are dead. There's no mechanics. They butchered them. And how do you get gear? Well, you know, here, just type /follow and target a person, and yeah, you get some gear now. What the actual fuck? It became such a lazy ass solution way out for so many people, and it absolutely made me puke. I was crying. I was so down to the bottom of it. Crying is maybe a bit over exaggerating, but you get my point here. I just felt that it was unnecessary. It was so unnecessary to add the LFR system. We really didn't need that. And that's something I so want Blizzard to remove that. I don't feel that we need the LFR system in this game, especially not in terms of how it has become over the later years. But that's something I'm going to be bringing up in this month's topic of the month of March. So you're going to see that. But yeah, it just got me down on my knees because I didn't feel that we needed this. LFR is the biggest tumor on the face of World of Warcraft. It is one of the biggest blemishes this game has to this day. It is awarding free gear for absolutely not even trying, and all you have to do to get it is press a button which finds your group. Raiding was one of the things I was hoping Blizzard would keep a bit holy in the same terms of legendaries, which also has completely deteriorated over the years. I feel that it wasn't something this game needed. We really didn't need a tool to assemble a raid for. That's something you should be able to join a guild for, or find a pug, or start a pug and trade chat, get people together, get going there, use some voice comm, have a bit of a conversation, socialize with people, get to know each other. Maybe some of you guys thought it was fun raiding with each other, maybe you guys could go together and start a raid or something like that. All that. And then suddenly no. And then suddenly freaking no. Just... it's out of there! It's gone! Jewel of Farm! Sign up! Find people, find a group that does things for you! We didn't need that. We just so badly didn't need that. We just didn't. And what happened? We got it? We got it, but we didn't need it? Made me so pissed off. And then there's people going like, well, of course, it's a good thing because it allows other people to experience the end content of the game and allows them to take part of it. Okay, listen up, pal. I know Blizzard wants to include everyone. I know they do. It's a good part of an MMO to include everyone. Of course it is. But I feel that World of Warcraft should have been one of those games where you at least need to do something. You need to lift your finger to see that content. And you know what the worst part is? You know what the saddest part is? The saddest part about this is that about 85% of the people that does LFR doesn't do it in order to actually see and experience the raids and the endgame content. Far from it! They're doing it to acquire free gear and to get their legendary quest chain ongoing. In terms of legendary thing, not an option within Cataclysm. Thank everything for that. But even so, it was unnecessary to the maximum to have the LFR system implemented. Free gear, free handouts. You no longer need to give a flying fuck to actually get a raid going. You sign up for this shit and done. Boom. Here's your gear. Here's the thing. Blizzard goes like, oh, we want people to see the endgame content and experience it. Nobody did that. They did it for free gear. They did it because it was free shit. Again, that's something I'm going to be picking a lot more on in this month's topic of the month. But yeah, I just wanted to get it out there. I still think that LFR is something we should be able to vote for removal of. If the community goes together and says we want LFR out of this game, I would be all for voting that up. I would so go for it because we don't need that shit in this game. It's destroying so much of it. Social aspects, people's attitudes more or less. People are they're getting used to the expectation of getting carried because of shit like LFR. They're done spamming LFR and they're like, oh, I'm pretty sure like normal raid's gonna be just like this. And it isn't, and they just expect to get carried because that's what they're used to. But talking about legendaries as well, legendaries is also something I felt that Cataclysm did a decent job on. The legendary, the way legendaries worked and how you obtained them was by far best. No question answer, was by far best within the classic. It became within TBC because it was just drops. Then Wrath of the Lich King Cataclysm did a decent job in terms of experience, questing immersion, the feel around obtaining the legendary. Cataclysm did a decent job with its legendaries, but I think it was really, really shitty how the class specifications was for it. Dragonwrath, Tharagos' Rest. Oh, it's the first caster staff! No! Does nobody know about the great staff of the Guardian? Kids! and a own set of rogue-specific legendaries. Rogues has had the short end of the stick in terms of legends. Shut up! How many of these freaking ass rogues didn't whore themselves to the bindings of the Thunder Fury back within Classic when it was way better for a warrior tank to have it in terms of PvE? Oh, I can one-shot in PvP. Yeah, but this is raiding, bitch. This isn't PvP. TBC, rogues and warriors only could get their hands on the Wargleaves. Who would usually be the ones whining the most that they didn't get it? That's rogues. Oh, we didn't get anything within Wrath of the Lich King. Shut up. Shut up. Just shut the fuck up. We move on to the next expansion. And rogues get their own set of own specific legendary daggers. This was one of the stupidest things I've seen Blizzard do in terms of legendaries. I'm no fan of the current legendaries in game because legendaries these days are just free handouts, but a legendary set of weapons which is specified only for one class. Bullshit. But even so, in terms of the quests you had to do, and especially like the solo scenarios for the Dragon Wrath and so on, all the content you had to do standalone in order to get the legendaries was decent. It was. So I'll give that to the Cataclysm expansion. It was good in terms of the legendaries. That there was an own specific class that only could have these legendaries. Stupid. Really, really fucking stupid. But immersive and the feel you had when living into the quests and doing this, especially once again the Dragon Wrath scenarios. Oh! It was cool. It was cool, and it was functional. It worked. And it was one of the few things that worked when the Cataclysm expansion. It really, really was. And I think I've covered everything there actually is to cover now. Also, leveling up-wise, we got new looms. I expect more looms to be added with the expansions, of course. But when they changed the zones up, the experience grant was just shot through the roof. An undocumented patch change during Cataclysm reduced the amount of experience needed from level 1 throughout 80, I think it was. Stupid thing to do. They just did a lot of these small changes that I felt completely unnecessary to do, which just eased the game up too much. So, to run down, PvP, dreadful. PvE, ugh. Firelands was functional. Legendaries, decent. World content, I like the Molten Front. And then there was, oh, the LFR. That is the worst thing they've added to this game. It still is to this day. LFR is a giant blemish on the face of World of Warcraft. And when so many people, the worst part was when so many people started in the Cataclysm, it just no. These people don't know what they've missed out on. They haven't missed out on anything, they just missed out on having to travel ages to get quests done, and everything took so much more time, and was so much more expensive, and was so harder to kill. It's supposed to be a challenging game, my fellow gamers. World of Warcraft isn't a game that is supposed to be a walk in the park, but it has slowly but steadily become a game that is a walk in the park. I so hope that we can restore somewhat sanctity to this game in a future expansion, but no. The Cataclysm just started shredding this game to pieces, and it has done a really good job at continuously doing that. It makes me sad. I hope we see a change for the better in the future in terms of World of Warcraft. I really hope we do. Because I like this game. I want to play World of Warcraft until the day I die. This game dies with me, or I'm going to die with it. It's 1 out of 2. There's nothing else. There's no other options in terms of that. AI just gets on top of my tits. I just couldn't stand this expansion. And then the Cataclysm, not this Warlords of Draenor. It was not a good expansion as well, but I might cover Warlords of Draenor in a different one, but yeah. I just wanted to get out there what my gripes with the Cataclysm was, so that people don't think that I'm just someone there sitting there just saying that the Cataclysm was terrible because everyone else says it. I've played this game since Classic. Don't get me wrong. But the Cataclysm is just the worst. I like the Mists of Pandaria a lot more than that. I really, really did. And that's why I keep denying the Cataclysm's existence. I keep just fading it out in terms of other videos and content here. I just couldn't stand it. It started the decline of the game, and it has kept on. The game has still been in decline ever since. The low subscriber count currently attests to that. Of course, we might see a spike in the subscriber count when Legion comes up, because Legion at the moment still looks really promising, but that's something we can't say for sure until we reach the Legion expansion now, can we? Blizzard can always do changes before the expansion goes live. They can. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that the Legion is sealed to be good. It might just get fucked up. Might just not be. We'll figure out. But that pretty much covers my experience with the Cataclysm. Why I disliked it, why I thought it was so dreadful as it was. I just couldn't stand it. I just couldn't. And that was also the only period when I actually gave the game a break. I didn't play for the pre-patch period for the Cataclysm. I was like, I'm not gonna be part of that shit. I came back after the pre-patch was done and so on, but no, just freaking no. Didn't stand that shit. Worst thing Blizzard has puked up over the years is the Cataclysm without any doubts. Oof, I'm glad we're done with that expansion, but still the LFR has kept on to this day, and it has just gotten worse. The community is slowly but steadily dying because of obnoxious pricks expecting to get carried everywhere they go. It's just dreadful. I really hope Legion can breathe some life into this this game again. I really hope it can, because I want to see World of Warcraft back in a glorious time. I want to see it up on the top again. I really, really do. But that's kind of hard when they've already introduced a lot of these things, which slowly but steadily kills the game. And LFR is one of them. I really think that we should get LFR removed. We don't need LFR in this game. We don't. You should be able to join a pug or something like that to get your raids done. And especially now with the Legendary being able to obtain via LFR. Nah. But the topic of the month for March is going to be about Legendary, so I'll be speaking a lot about that within that one. But I just wanted to use this 50-minute here special off the Let's Quest to get out there what minus agility, nope. What my gripes about that expansion was, why I didn't like the Cataclysm one. Again, I didn't want to go down into history as the person that just sits there and is like, hey, you know what, I didn't like this expansion just because I didn't like this expansion. That wouldn't be right. That wouldn't be right. So there you have it, my fellow gamers. That is Get Rexx't having explained to you why I disliked the Cataclysm expansion. Once again, Cataclysm, like any other expansion, of course had its positive sides, but it's just the one I despised the most because of all of its faults. The awful raids, the dreadful PvP, the start of the decline of the game in general, and the biggest tumor ever in the history of World of Warcraft was introduced via the LFR system. It was just terrible. Absolutely terrible. And that almost took me 50 minutes as well. Wow, we still have a couple of minutes left to go, though, so we're gonna capture this dragon. Not Ninja, could you not kill the dragon, please? There we go. I'm like open for suggestions as well towards what I can make specials about. I'm not a mean person in terms of that. I like taking suggestions, I like getting questions, I like getting recommendations, and so on. I've gotten one recommendation to play a game, but that game is not for PC. And I don't have a console to play on, so that's kind of a no-go for me at the moment. But yeah. Let's get this in with, and we're about... we still have 3 minutes left. You can keep on questing for a couple more minutes. But if any one of you guys have any questions for me, I can just pick up another dragon. In terms of other things you might want to ask about some like gripes with the Cataclysm expansion, wanting me to go a bit more into depth and detail about certain aspects, I'll gladly answer questions. I'll more than gladly answer questions. But yeah, that was just a major summarization done within 15 minutes of what my major issues with that expansion was as a whole. There we go. And I got the thing. These guys supposed to drop shimmering runes? Killed so many but none of them drop runes? Are you serious? Oh yeah. I tend to get personal with some things. I'm a person that takes things up, and I get pissed when things are bad, and the Cataclysm was an expansion I just... ugh. And so I felt that I could use special to at least cover my gripes with the expansion, so that once again people don't think I'm just sitting there talking shit. I actually have my reasons to dislike the expansion, and well enough good reasons for that. I really hope Legion can turn this game upside down, I really do. We won't know until the game's out, of course, but I have my hopes. I have my high hopes. And if you guys would die, then that would be beautiful. There we go. No shimmering runes. Are you shitting me? Come here. Stack up. Okay, fine then. Never mind. There we go. Yes. Well, that is gonna be it once I deliver these quests, my fellow gamers, for this episode. Now, I hope you guys enjoy this here little special. I'm going to do these specials for at least every 10th episode. That's my goal, to keep that up and see if we can catch more up with certain assets and get closer. I still want to hit level 100 by the level 100th episode, so we'll see if we can't do that. But yeah, that's going to be it for today's episode of Let's Quest. I hope you guys enjoyed. And I also hope you will be staying tuned for the videos. If you have any suggestions for things you want to have me talk about in any other episodes of Let's Quest, or anything for a special or something, feel free to leave it in the comment section down below, and I'll see if I can get around to doing it. And with that said and done, we're going to end here. Now, most importantly, once again, thank you all so much for watching, my fellow gamers, and until the next time, have a good one.